All right, let's talk about code coverage. But we're not just going to cover the basics. Today, we're going to completely change how you think about it, talk about it, and most importantly, how you use it to ace your next technical interview. So, imagine this. You're in a job interview. The pressure is on, and then they hit you with this exact question. This isn't just a simple query. It's designed to see how you really think, to separate someone who just follows rules from someone who actually understands strategy. And this is where the magic happens. A lot of people give that common answer, right? Oh, I aim for 100%. But the strong answer, it immediately changes the game. It pivots from a simple number to a powerful concept, meaningful coverage. It's confident, it's strategic, and it instantly tells the interviewer you've got real-world experience. Okay, so let's dig into that first big idea, what I call the 100% coverage trap. You'd be surprised how many teams fall into this, getting obsessed with the metric without really understanding what it means. Chasing that perfect 100% is, well, usually a terrible idea. Why? Because it encourages developers to write lazy, pointless tests just to make the number go up. It gives you this false sense of security. You can have 100% coverage and still have a super buggy application if the tests aren't actually any good. So the real goal isn't just a lower number, it's a smarter number. A strategic 80 to 90% is way more valuable. It shows that you're focusing your time and energy on the parts of the code that are actually critical, the parts that are complex and likely to break. It's all about quality over quantity. And that leads us straight to the core of this whole philosophy, the meaningful mindset. It's about shifting your focus from how much did we test to did we test the right things. So what really matters? This is where you should be spending your testing energy. You're not wasting time on simple stuff. You're targeting the absolute heart of your application. The complex business logic, those tricky if-else conditions, the weird edge cases that always seem to cause problems at 2 a.m., and of course, what happens when things go wrong. Now, a great way to guide this mindset is with a classic model, the test pyramid. The idea is simple. You want a big, solid base of super fast unit tests, then a smaller layer of integration tests to see how things work together, and finally, just a tiny little peak of slow, expensive end-to-end tests. It's all about being efficient and effective. Okay, so we know what to test. Let's talk about how to test, because a brilliant strategy doesn't mean much if your tests themselves are a total mess. This is all about writing tests that are clean, easy to understand, and won't turn into a maintenance nightmare. The foundation for literally every good test is the arrange, act, assert pattern. It's so simple, but so powerful. First, you arrange everything your test needs to run, then you act. You call the code you're actually testing. And finally, you assert that you got the result you expected. It makes every test's purpose totally clear. And building on that, here are 3 golden rules. Try to stick to one assertion per test. It makes finding bugs so much easier. Give your tests descriptive names so you know exactly what they're for without even looking at the code. And this one is crucial. Tests must be independent. One test should never, ever depend on another one. That's how you get a flaky, unreliable test suite. So we have the mindset and we know what a great test looks like. Now let's get into the strategic toolkit, some of the more advanced techniques that really pull this all together. Let's talk about mocking. It's a critical skill, and there's one main rule you have to know. You do mock external things you don't control, like a database or a third-party API. That keeps your test isolated, but you don't mock the actual business logic you're trying to test. I mean, that defeats the whole purpose, right? And remember that test pyramid? Well, here are the layers. You have unit tests for your isolated logic, integration tests to make sure you're talking to the database correctly, contract tests for your APIs, and those E2E tests for the full user experience. Each type has a very specific job to do. But what if you're dealing with old, messy code? You can still improve things safely. You can use techniques like dependency injection to make your code more modular. You can break down giant methods into smaller, testable chunks. And you can use parameterized tests to check tons of different inputs with the same test logic. It's super efficient. Now, here's the absolute truth. None of this matters if it isn't automated. Your testing strategy has to be built right into your development pipeline. That means running tests on every single pull request. It means automatically failing the build if coverage drops below your target. This makes quality a non-negotiable part of your workflow. So, we've covered the philosophy, the best practices, and the tools. Now, let's put it all together into that perfect, knock it out of the park interview answer. This, right here, is interview gold. You need to tell a story. On a past project, we had high coverage, but we were still seeing bugs in production. So I looked into it. We ended up deleting a bunch of low-value tests and added new ones for specific tricky edge cases. And the funny thing is, our coverage number actually went down, but our confidence in the code went way up and production issues dropped. Now that shows you have real wisdom. And if you want to boil your entire philosophy down to one killer line, this is it. It's confident, it's spot on, and it proves that you think about testing as a way to deliver business value, not just as a technical chore. And of course, you've got to be ready for the follow-up questions. When they ask if 100% is necessary, you know the answer. No, quality and strategic focus matter more. When they ask about legacy code, you can talk about characterization tests to safely lock down behavior before you refactor. These are professional-level answers. So I'll leave you with this one question. The next time you look at your code coverage report, don't just see a number. Ask yourself, what's the story it's telling? Is it a story about chasing a vanity metric, or is it telling a story about a solid, reliable application that your team can build on with real confidence? That right there is the difference that meaningful coverage makes.